6 months had passed since the Battle of New Busan. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The Galactic Council still existed, but its authority was crumbling. 12 species had openly declared independence. 20 more were in secret negotiations with human representatives. The old order was dying. High Chancellor Vexthor stood alone in his private chambers looking out at the stars. He was 417 years old. He had served the Council for 3 centuries. And now he was about to do something that would have been unthinkable a year ago. Ambassador Jamin entered without being announced. The human had that privilege now. Things had changed that much. Chancellor, Jamin said simply. You asked to see me? Vexthor turned from the window. His multiple eyes studied the human. Such a young species, barely out of the cradle in galactic terms. And yet they had accomplished what no one else had in 2,000 years. They had forced the Council to change. I have made a decision, Ambassador. The Council cannot continue as it has. Your people were correct about that. The old ways led to stagnation and tyranny. We told ourselves it was order and progress, but it was neither. Jamin waited. He had learned that with Vexthor, patience was important. The old Krethian did not make decisions quickly, but when he did, they were permanent. I will propose to the Council that we dissolve our current structure. In its place, we will create a new organization. A galactic alliance of sovereign species. No hierarchy. No rulers unruled. True cooperation between equals. Jamin felt hope rise in his chest. This was what humanity had fought for. Not conquest. Not revenge. Just the chance for all species to stand as equals. Many council members will oppose this, Jamin said carefully. They already do. But they also see reality. The Council cannot defeat humanity militarily. Even if we could, the cost would fracture the galaxy permanently. And your people have proven they do not seek domination. That weapon your engineer built and then destroyed. That broadcast showing you had the power to annihilate us but chose not to. That was the most effective diplomacy possible. Jamin thought about Hyejin, the young engineer who had created a weapon capable of destroying entire fleets. She had cried when Admiral Daehyun ordered it dismantled, not because her work was wasted, but because she was grateful they would never use it. When will you propose this to the Council? Tomorrow, and I would like humanity to be present, not as conquerors, not as enemies, but as founding members of the new alliance. The Council chamber was packed. Every species sent representatives. This was history being made, and everyone wanted to witness it. High Chancellor Vexthor stood at the center podium. Beside him stood Ambassador Jamin, the first human to officially address the Council. Vexthor spoke first, his voice amplified to reach every corner of the vast chamber. For 2,000 years, the Galactic Council has maintained order through a system of hierarchy. The ancient species guided the young. The strong protected the weak. We told ourselves this was necessary, that without our guidance, chaos would reign. He paused, letting his words sink in. We were wrong. Our system did not create order. It created resentment. It stifled innovation. It prevented species from reaching their full potential. Humanity has shown us a different way. They prove that a young species can achieve greatness not by following the path laid by elders, but by forging their own path. Murmurs spread through the chamber, some angry, some hopeful, all uncertain. I propose we dissolve the Galactic Council. In its place, we will create the Galactic Alliance, a federation of sovereign species who cooperate as equals. No species will rule over another. No culture will be forced to change. We will work together because we choose to, not because we must. A Vorlaxian representative stood, his scales bristling with anger. This is surrender. We are giving the humans exactly what they want. Jamin stepped forward before Vexthor could respond. Humanity does not want surrender. We want partnership. We want a galaxy where species compete through innovation and cooperation, not through conquest and subjugation. Chancellor Vexthor is not surrendering to us. He is choosing a better future for everyone. The Vorlaxian was not satisfied. Easy words from a species with the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. You say you want equality, but you hold all the weapons. Jamin nodded slowly. You are right to be suspicious. Power corrupts. That is why humanity proposes a mutual defense treaty. Any species that joins the alliance will be protected by all members. Not just by human ships, but by ships from every species that chooses to contribute. We will share our technology, our tactics, everything that made us strong. Because a rising tide lifts all boats. A small Dweneth representative stood up, his voice carrying surprising authority. The Dweneth Union supports this proposal. We have lived under council rule for 800 years. It is time for something new. Humanity has proven they mean what they say. They could have conquered us. They chose partnership instead. One by one, other species stood. Some voiced support. Others expressed doubts. A few remained hostile. But slowly, inevitably, the momentum shifted. Change was coming whether the old guard accepted it or not. The vote took 3 days. In the end, 37 species voted to create the Galactic Alliance. 8 voted against. 2 abstained. It was enough. The old council was dissolved. A new era had begun. On New Busan, a memorial garden had been built. 457 names were carved into a black stone wall, the titans who had died holding the line. Colonel Jiwoo stood before the wall with the survivors of his unit. 43 names that would never be forgotten. Lieutenant Bora stood beside him. Her left arm had been replaced with a cybernetic prosthetic. She would never be quite the same. None of them would. But they had survived. Do you think they would be proud of what we achieved? Bora asked quietly. Jiwoo looked at the names. People he had trained with, fought beside, watched die. They had given everything for a future they would never see. They died so others could live, so the galaxy could change. Yes, I think they would be proud. And I think we owe it to them to make sure their sacrifice meant something. Captain Minsu approached them, his uniform crisp and formal. He saluted the memorial wall before speaking. Colonel, the Admiral requests your presence on the Eternal Dawn. The First Alliance fleet is being assembled. He wants the Titans to be part of the honor guard. Jiwoo nodded. Life continued. Duty continued. The dead would want them to keep fighting for the future they had died to create. Admiral Dae-hyun stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, watching as ships from dozens of species assembled in formation. Human vessels flew alongside Dweneth cruisers, Quarvax carriers, even a few Vorlaxian destroyers whose captains had chosen the Alliance over the old ways. It was not a large fleet yet, only 60 ships, but it was a beginning, a symbol of what could be achieved when species worked together as equals, rather than as masters and servants. Commander Haun stood beside him, a slight smile on her usually serious face. We did it, Admiral. We actually did it. Humanity has returned to the galaxy. Dae-hyun nodded slowly. His cybernetic eye glowed in the dim bridge lighting. He thought about everything that had led to this moment. 300 years of hiding, generations who had lived in fear, warriors who had died protecting the dream of a better future. We returned, he agreed, but not as conquerors. Not as the violent savages the Council feared. We returned as equals, as partners, as proof that strength and wisdom can coexist. Captain Minsu approached with a datapad. Admiral, we have our orders from the Alliance Council. 3 systems in the Outer Rim are being threatened by pirates. They are requesting assistance. Dae-hyun smiled. This was what they had fought for. Not to rule the galaxy, but to protect it. To ensure that the strong defended the weak rather than exploiting them. Signal the fleet. All ships prepare for jump. The Terran fleet will show the galaxy what the Alliance stands for. We protect the innocent. We stand against tyranny. We prove that a better way is possible. The ships began to move, their engines creating trails of light against the darkness of space. The Eternal Dawn led the way, as it always would. Behind it came vessels from a dozen species, united in purpose if not in form. Dae-hyun watched them go and thought about Earth, the lost homeworld that humanity had never forgotten. Someday perhaps they would return there, reclaim what had been taken. But that was for the future. For now they had a galaxy to protect, species to defend, an alliance to build. Humanity had been dismissed as myth, had been written off as extinct, had been forgotten by a galaxy that thought it knew everything. But myths have power, and humanity had just reminded the galaxy why their story had survived for 300 years. Not because they were the strongest, not because they were the most advanced, but because they refused to give up, refused to accept defeat, refused to let injustice stand unchallenged. They had been myths. Now they were legends, and legends never die. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, disappearing into the void. Across the galaxy, species watched and wondered. The humans had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same again. New Busan was a mining colony built into the side of a mountain range. 50,000 people lived there, working the rich mineral deposits that made the planet valuable. The colony had minimal defenses, a few anti-aircraft batteries, some patrol vehicles, nothing that could stop a serious military attack. Colonel Jiwoo stood on the landing pad as evacuation ships lifted off one after another. His Titans were helping load civilians, their power armor making them look like giant metal warriors among the frightened colonists. Children stared at them with wide eyes. Adults hurried past carrying whatever belongings they could manage. Lieutenant Bora approached, her helmet retracted so he could see her face. She looked tired. They all were. Last transport is leaving now, Colonel. Everyone who wanted to evacuate is gone. About 300 colonists refused to leave. They are in the shelters, Jiwoo nodded. There were always some who would not leave their homes no matter the danger. He respected that even if he thought it was foolish. How long until Telquan arrives? 2 hours. He is bringing 10,000 troops, mostly Vorlaxian shock infantry, heavy weapons, orbital support, 500 Titans against 10,000 regular troops with orbital bombardment capability. The math was not good, but math had never stopped humanity before. Positions? Jiwoo asked. Alpha Squad has the main entrance. Beta is in the processing facility. Gamma and Delta are mobile reserves. I put our best snipers in the high towers. Every building is rigged with surprises. This colony is now a fortress. Jiwoo looked at his second in command. Bora had been with him for 8 years. She had never failed a mission, had never backed down from a fight. If they were going to die today, at least it would be alongside people worth dying with. The Admiral will be here in 30 hours? 28 now. We need to hold for 28 hours. Then we will hold for 28 hours. Telquan wants to make a statement. We will make sure his statement is written in his own blood. War Master Telquan watched New Busan on his tactical display with grim satisfaction. Intelligence reported that most civilians had evacuated. Good. He did not want to slaughter helpless people. He wanted to kill human soldiers. Wanted to prove that his defeat at New Sejong had been a fluke. His fleet entered orbit. 20 troop transports, 15 support vessels, enough firepower to level the entire colony from space. But that would defeat the purpose. He needed footage of Council troops defeating human defenders in ground combat, needed to show the galaxy that humanity could be beaten. All forces begin landing operations. Establish perimeter and advance on the colony center. Maximum aggression. I want this over quickly. The transports descended. 10,000 Vorlaxian troops emerged, their scales glinting in the harsh sunlight. They were professional soldiers, veterans of dozens of campaigns. They moved in disciplined formations toward the colony. The first squad reached the outer buildings. Then the humans opened fire. It was not like anything Telquan had seen before. The human weapons fired kinetic rounds at hypersonic speeds. Vorlaxian armor, designed to deflect energy weapons, shattered like glass. Entire squads went down in seconds. The survivors scrambled for cover, but there was no safe place. Bullets came from everywhere. From buildings. From hidden positions. From angles that should have been impossible. The Titans were nightmares made real. They moved through the colony like demons, their power armor making them nearly invincible. A Vorlaxian squad would turn a corner and find a 7-foot-tall armored figure waiting for them. By the time they realized what they were facing, half of them were dead. Colonel Jiwoo fought at the front lines. His enhanced reflexes made him faster than any natural soldier. His armor absorbed impacts that would have killed normal humans. His weapons never missed. He was what 300 years of human military evolution had created. The perfect soldier, but perfection had its limits. For every Vorlaxian that fell, 2 more advanced. The Council troops learned quickly. They stopped trying to fight the Titans directly. Instead, they used overwhelming firepower, concentrated their fire, brought up heavy weapons. The first Titan fell 2 hours into the battle. Then another. Then 3 more. Jiwoo watched his people die and felt rage burning in his chest. But rage would not save them. Only discipline would. Fall back to secondary positions. Fighting retreat. Make them pay for every meter. The Titans withdrew through the colony, leaving behind traps and ambush points. Buildings exploded as Council troops entered them. Streets turned into kill zones. What should have been a quick victory became a grinding battle of attrition. Telquan watched his casualty reports climb. 500 dead, 1,000, 1,500. His troops controlled most of the colony, but the humans still fought. Still killed. Still refused to surrender. 20 hours passed. The battle raged without pause. Jiwoo had lost half his titans. 250 dead or too wounded to fight. The survivors were exhausted, their armor damaged, their ammunition running low, but they had held. Against impossible odds, they had held. Bora limped to Jiwoo's position. Her left arm hung useless, the armor cracked and sparking. Blood ran down her face from a head wound. But she was still fighting. Admiral Daehyun just sent a message. 8 hours out. We need to hold for 8 more hours. Jiwoo looked at his surviving titans. They were battered, broken, but not beaten. Never beaten. Then we hold for 8 hours. Telquan wanted to prove humans could be beaten. We are going to prove him wrong. Admiral Daehyun stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, watching the countdown timer. 8 hours until they reached New Busan. 8 hours that his titans had to survive. Captain Minsu stood beside him, tension clear in every line of his body. Can they hold that long? Daehyun did not answer immediately. He thought about Jiwoo, about the titans, about people who had sacrificed their humanity to protect others. If anyone could hold for 8 hours, it was them. They will hold, and when we arrive, we will make sure their sacrifice was not in vain. The Terran fleet pushed their engines to maximum. Behind them came the main battle group. 200 ships ready for war. Telquan had brought 20. The math was about to change dramatically. The 8th hour arrived. Jiwoo held the colony center with 43 surviving titans. They were out of ammunition for their primary weapons, reduced to close combat, but they still fought. Telquan sent his final assault. 3,000 troops, everything he had left. They would overwhelm the humans through sheer numbers. Victory was finally within reach. Then space tore open above New Busan. The Terran fleet emerged from subspace directly in orbit. Admiral Daehyun did not bother with warnings or demands. His fleet opened fire immediately. Telquan's orbital support vessels died in the first salvo. His transports tried to flee and were destroyed before they could activate their jump drives. His ground troops looked up and saw death falling from the sky. Captain Minsu commanded the orbital strike with surgical precision. Every target was a military position. Every shot avoided the colony center where the Titans still fought. The Council troops broke and ran. There was nowhere to run to. Fresh human Marines descended from the fleet. 5,000 troops in perfect formation. They swept through the colony, accepting the surrender of any Council soldiers who laid down their weapons. Colonel Jiwoo sat on a piece of rubble, his armor smoking and damaged. Around him, his surviving Titans did the same. 43 had survived. 457 had died, buying time for civilians to escape and reinforcements to arrive. Admiral Daehyun descended in a shuttle. He walked through the ruins to where Jiwoo waited. The colonel tried to stand, but Daehyun waved him back down. You held, Colonel. Against impossible odds, you held. Jiwoo's voice was hoarse with exhaustion and grief. We lost almost everyone, Admiral. Was it worth it? Daehyun looked at the ruins around them, at the blood and the bodies. At the price of victory, your Titans saved 50,000 civilians. They proved humanity cannot be intimidated. They showed the galaxy what we are made of. Yes, Colonel, it was worth it. But that does not make the cost any less terrible. In orbit, War Master Telquan was brought aboard the Eternal Dawn in chains. The proud warrior who had never lost a battle had now lost 2. And this time he would not go home. He would stand trial for attacking civilians. Across the galaxy, news of the Battle of New Busan spread like wildfire. Humanity had not just won. They had demonstrated something far more important. They would protect the weak at any cost. They would stand against tyranny no matter the odds. And the galaxy began to understand that humanity was not just a military power. They were a moral one. That made them far more dangerous to the Council than any weapon ever could. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaos. High Chancellor Vexthor stood at the center of the chamber, but for the first time in his 400 years of life, he could not control the delegates. Everyone was shouting at once, "Humans are extinct," one delegate screamed. "This must be some trick." "Then explain how they destroyed 120 of our warships." Another countered. "Explain how they appeared from nowhere." Vexthor raised his forearms for silence. Slowly, reluctantly, the chamber quieted. "We have reviewed the battle recordings," he said carefully. "The humans possess technology we do not understand. Ships that can hide in subspace, weapons that bypass our shields. Coordination beyond anything we have encountered. War Master Telquan stepped forward, his scales dark with shame. They are more advanced than we believed possible. They have been watching us for centuries, studying our tactics. We walked into their trap like children. Then we must respond with overwhelming force, a Vorlaxian delegate demanded. Gather the full armada. Crush them before they grow stronger. And lose thousands more ships? A smaller delegate asked timidly. We do not know how many vessels they have hidden. We do not know the full extent of their capabilities. Attacking blindly would be suicide. Vexthor watched the debate with growing concern. The council was fracturing. Species that had worked together for millennia were suddenly questioning everything, and at the center of it all was a species everyone had dismissed as primitive fairy tales. Chancellor, his aide whispered, there is a human at our gates. He claims to be an ambassador. The chamber fell silent. A human. Here, in council space. Bring him in, Vexthor ordered. Ambassador Jamin walked into the council chamber with calm dignity. He was 51 years old, wearing simple diplomatic robes. He looked around at the assembled species with no fear, only quiet confidence. Hi, Chancellor Vexthor, he said, bowing slightly. Thank you for receiving me. Vexthor studied the human carefully. You come here after your fleet destroyed our ships. You expect a warm welcome? I come here because my people believe in peace, Jamin replied. Admiral Daehyun could have destroyed your entire fleet. He chose to show mercy. We do not seek war, Chancellor. We seek recognition. Recognition? Telquan spat. You hide for centuries, then attack without provocation and demand recognition? Jamin turned to face the War Master. You attacked the free worlds inhabited by humans and those who chose to live with us. We defended our own. That is not aggression. That is survival. What do you want? Vexthor asked bluntly. Simple terms, Jamin said. The free worlds remain independent under human protection. The Council ceases all expansion through military force. In return, humanity will open diplomatic relations. We will share some of our technology. We will work toward a galaxy based on cooperation, not domination. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Share technology? Accept human terms? It was unthinkable. But Vexthor raised his arms again. We will consider your proposal, Ambassador. But know this. The Council has maintained peace in this galaxy for 3,000 years. We will not surrender that authority easily. Jamin nodded. We do not ask you to surrender anything, Chancellor. We ask you to share it. There is a difference. Deep in Council space, in places the government did not watch closely, Commander Hatyun's network was already active. Men and women who had lived as Council citizens for decades suddenly revealed their true purpose. In a busy spaceport, a maintenance worker who everyone thought was Dwenneth quietly copied security protocols and sent them to human intelligence. In a university, a respected professor who claimed to be studying ancient cultures was actually mapping Council military installations. In government offices, secretaries and clerks who had worked for years without suspicion were now feeding information to humanity. Ha-Yun sat in her hidden command center, watching data flow in from 100 sources. We have complete visibility, she reported to Admiral Daehyun. Every major council world, every military base, every political decision. They have no secrets from us. The Admiral's face on the screen showed satisfaction. Good, but do not reveal all our assets. We may need them later. Understood, but sir, there is more. Several smaller species have reached out to us secretly. They are tired of council control. They want to know if humanity would protect them the way we protected the free worlds. Daehyun was quiet for a moment. How many species? 3 so far, but I expect more once word spreads. We showed the galaxy that the council can be challenged. That changes everything. On a military base far from the political debates, Colonel Jiwoo trained with his Titan Marines. The enhanced soldiers moved through combat drills with inhuman speed and precision. Their power armor turned them into walking weapons, each capable of fighting entire squads alone. Jiwoo watched from the observation deck. At 34, he was young to command such an elite force. But he had volunteered for the enhancement program knowing the cost. The augmentations that made him stronger, faster, and tougher also made him less human. He could never go back to being what he was. Lieutenant Borod joined him at the window. She was enhanced too, one of the first volunteers. The new recruits are adapting well, she reported. They will be ready for combat in 6 weeks. We are preparing for ground war. Jiwoo said quietly. That means someone expects the fighting to continue. Bora nodded. The council will not give up easily. They have too much pride, too much power to lose. Then we will be ready, Jiwoo said. We chose this path so others would not have to. If war comes, we will be the shield that protects humanity. Even if it costs everything, Bora asked softly. Jiwoo looked at his reflection in the window. The cybernetic enhancements were visible under his skin, glowing faintly. He was more machine than man now, but he had made his choice, especially then, he replied. War Master Telquan stood alone in his private quarters, staring at the tactical display. He had reviewed the battle recordings 100 times. Each time the result was the same. Complete defeat. His pride demanded vengeance. His honor required he wash away the shame of retreat. But his tactical mind recognized the truth. The humans were better prepared, better equipped, better trained. A message arrived on his private channel. It was from a military base in Council territory, far from the capital. The commander there was a Vorlaxian like himself, a warrior who understood that honor sometimes required difficult choices. I have located a human colony, the message read, lightly defended, far from their main fleet. If we strike quickly and brutally, we can show them they are not invincible. We can restore council prestige. Telquan stared at the message. It went against the Chancellor's orders to wait for diplomatic solutions. It was risky, possibly illegal, but it was also an opportunity. He composed his response carefully. Gather your forces. I will join you with additional ships. We strike the human colony in 3 days. Let them learn that challenging the council has consequences. In the Human Intelligence Center, alarms began to sound. Commander Hyun rushed to the console, reading the intercepted communications with growing alarm. Get me Admiral Dae-hyun, she ordered. Immediately. The Admiral's face appeared on screen moments later. What is it? Telquan is planning an attack on New Busan, Hyun reported. Our frontier mining colony. He has gathered 30 ships. They will strike in less than 3 days. Dae-hyun's face hardened. How many people on New Busan? 50,000? It is primarily a civilian settlement with minimal military presence. Can we get the fleet there in time? Hyun checked the calculations. No. The main fleet is too far away. By the time we arrive, the attack will be over. The Admiral was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with a terrible decision. Begin immediate evacuation of New Busan. Get as many civilians out as possible. Send Colonel Jiwoo and his Titan Marines. They can hold the colony until we arrive. Sir, Hyun said carefully, 500 Marines cannot stop 30 warships. No, Dae-hyun agreed. But they can make Telquan pay for every meter of ground. They can show the galaxy that humanity does not abandon its people. And they can hold long enough for us to arrive and finish this. Hyun nodded, though her expression was grim. I will give the orders. As the communication ended, Admiral Dae-hyun sat alone in his quarters. He had just sent 500 of his best soldiers to hold an impossible position. Many would not survive. But the alternative was allowing Telquan to massacre civilians unopposed. Sometimes command meant making terrible choices. He closed his eyes and thought of the families on New Busan. Hold on, he whispered. We are coming. War Master Telquan stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars bend as his fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. 300 warships materialized in the space around New Sejong like a swarm of metal predators. The planet hung before them, blue and green and completely defenseless. Scan for enemy vessels. Telquan ordered. His clawed hand rested on the command console with casual confidence. This would be over quickly. 40 ships detected. His tactical officer reported. They are in standard defensive formation around the planet. Outdated models. No significant threat. Telquan allowed himself a small smile. 40 against 300. The free worlds had always been foolish, but this was suicide. Open a channel to their command ship. The face of Captain Yoon appeared on the screen. She was young for a fleet commander, her expression tight with barely controlled fear. Telquan recognized the look. He had seen it 1,000 times before. This is War Master Telquan of the Galactic Council, he announced formally. Your worlds are in violation of Council law. Surrender immediately and your people will be treated with mercy. Resist and you will be destroyed. Captain Yoon's jaw tightened. We will not surrender our freedom. Then you choose death. Tell, Quan replied. He cut the connection and turned to his officers. All ships assume attack formation. Target their defensive fleet. Leave the planet intact. We will need its resources. The Council fleet moved with practiced precision. Ships that had fought together for decades knew their positions without being told. Energy weapons powered up, shields strengthened. In minutes, they would begin the bombardment. Sir, the tactical officer said suddenly, I am detecting unusual readings from the gas giant. Tell. Quan glanced at the display. Unusual how? Subspace fluctuations. They could be natural phenomena from the planet. Its magnetic field or nothing. Tell. Quan interrupted. Focus on the enemy fleet. We attack in 3 minutes. Hidden in the shadow of the gas giant, Commander Ha-Un watched the Council fleet through her ship. As sensors, the silent observer was completely invisible, its ghost drive keeping it phased halfway into subspace. Around her, 200 human warships waited in the same hidden state. They are moving into attack formation. Her sensor officer reported quietly, standard Council tactics. Envelopment pattern Delta 7. Ha-Un smiled without humor. She had spent years studying Council military doctrine. They had not changed their tactics in 2 centuries. Predictable, arrogant, perfect. She opened a secure channel to the flagship. Admiral Dae-hyun, targets confirmed, they have not detected us. Recommend attack in 90 seconds. The Admiral. His calm voice replied immediately. Understood. All ships prepare for phase transition. On my mark. Ha-Un felt her heart race. This was the moment humanity had prepared for across 300 years. Everything depended on the next few minutes. 30 seconds. The countdown began. On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Admiral Dae-hyun watched the tactical display. The Council fleet was arranged exactly as Ha-Un had predicted. Their ships formed a wide net around the free world's defenders. In moments, they would open fire. Captain Min-soo stood beside him, hands gripping the edge of the console. Ready when you are, sir. Dae-hyun nodded slowly. 300 years of hiding, 300 years of preparation. It all came down to this single moment. All ships, he said clearly. Execute. Space itself tore open. 200 human warships phased into normal space directly inside the Council formation. The impossible maneuver caught Tell. Quan's fleet completely off guard. One moment they were alone. The next enemy vessels appeared among them, light ghosts becoming solid. Alarm sirens screamed across every Council ship. Officers shouted in confusion. Sensors that had shown nothing suddenly registered hostile contacts at point-blank range. Admiral Dae-hyun opened a channel to all frequencies. His voice cut through the chaos with absolute authority. Galactic Council. This is Admiral Dae-hyun of the Unified Terran Fleet. You were told humanity was extinct. You were lied to. We have watched you from the shadows for 3 centuries. We have seen your arrogance, your cruelty, your belief that Nuun could challenge your power. He paused, letting the words sink in across 1,000 ships. Withdraw from free world space immediately. If you fire a single shot, we will show you what humanity has become in our long exile. This is your only warning. On the Council flagship Telto. Quan stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The human ships had appeared inside his formation, surrounded his vessels, made his numerical advantage meaningless. But disbelief quickly turned to rage. Humans, the extinct species, the myths. They dared to threaten him. All ships open fire. Tell. Quan roared. Show these primitives the power of the Council. Energy beams lanced across space. Missiles launched. The Council fleet attacked with overwhelming firepower. Confident in their superior numbers and ancient weapons technology, the human fleet responded with cold efficiency. Railguns fired solid metal slugs at incredible speeds. The kinetic weapons punched through Council energy shields like they were paper. Adaptive shielding absorbed energy attacks and redirected the power to weapon systems. Point defense lasers destroyed incoming missiles before they could reach their targets. Captain Min-soo commanded the Eternal Dawn with brutal precision. Target their command ships. Fire all forward batteries. The flagship's weapons carved through 3 Council vessels in the first salvo. Explosions blossomed across space as ships that had served for centuries died in seconds. They are trying to reform, the tactical officer reported. Moving to defensive positions. Do not let them, Min-soo ordered. All ships, aggressive pursuit. Keep them scattered. The battle became a massacre. Council ships were faster and had more firepower individually, but the human fleet fought with coordination and tactical awareness that the Council had never encountered. Every human captain knew exactly where their allies were. Every ship covered another's weakness. Every attack hit the most vulnerable targets. Admiral Daehyun watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. Communications open channel to Tel Quan, the War Master. His face appeared on screen. His scales were dark with stress, his eyes wide with something Daehyun recognized as fear. "You have lost 120 ships in 30 minutes, Daehyun said calmly. "Withdraw now, or I will destroy every vessel in your fleet." Tel Quan's pride warred with survival. Another explosion lit up the screen behind him. His flagship shuddered under impact. "All ships." Tel Quan said finally, his voice hollow. "Retreat. Jump to Rally Point Gamma." The Council fleet broke formation and fled. Ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, leaving their dead behind. In less than an hour, the mighty armada that had come to conquer was running for their lives. Governor Tae-yang stood in his command center, unable to believe what he was seeing. The Council fleet was retreating. The mysterious human ships had driven them away. "Sir," his communication officer said shakily, "we are receiving a message from the human fleet. Admiral Daehyun." His face appeared on the screen. The old man looked tired but resolute. "Governor Tae-yang," Daehyun said, "the free worlds are under the protection of the Terran fleet. No Council force will threaten you again. We apologize for staying hidden so long, but we had to be certain we could protect you before revealing ourselves." Tae-yang found his voice. "Who are you? Where did you come from?" "We are the descendants of the old human colonies," Daehyun replied. "We never went extinct. We survived in the dark places of the galaxy, building our strength and waiting for the right moment. That moment is now." The Admiral. His image flickered. "We will be in contact soon to discuss the future. For now, your people are safe. Humanity keeps its promises." The transmission ended. Tae-yang stood in silence, processing what had just happened. Humanity was real. They had returned, and they had just changed the galaxy forever. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was silent. High Chancellor Vex Thor stood at the center, his insect-like body towering over the other representatives. His four eyes scanned the chamber with cold calculation. Around him, delegates from 47 different species waited for his words. "The free worlds refuse our generous offer," Vex Thor announced. His voice echoed through the vast space. "They reject the peace and prosperity of the Council." "This cannot stand," murmurs filled the chamber. The free worlds were a collection of 12 independent systems on the edge of Council space. They had always been stubborn, refusing to join the galactic government. For centuries, the Council had ignored them. But now, with valuable resources discovered in their territory, patience had run out. War Master Tel Quan stepped forward. The reptilian commander's scales gleamed under the artificial lights. "I propose we send a military force," he said firmly. "A show of strength will make them see reason. My fleet can pacify all 12 worlds in a matter of weeks." Most of the delegates nodded in agreement. The Council had the largest military force in the known galaxy. No one could stand against them. It had been that way for thousands of years. An old scholar from the Dweneth species raised a small hand. "High Chancellor, if I may speak," the furry creature said timidly. "The historical records show that humans once lived in that region of space. Perhaps we should consider—" Laughter erupted across the chamber. Tel Quan's deep voice boomed above the rest. "Humans? They are myths, old one. Stories we tell our children. They destroyed themselves long before we reached the stars." The scholar lowered his head. "The records suggest they might have survived." "Enough," Vex Thor interrupted. "We waste time on fairy tales. Humans are extinct. They have been for over 3,000 years. War Master Tel Quan, you have my authorization. Prepare your fleet." The chamber erupted in approval. The decision was made. Within days, 300 Council warships would move toward the free worlds. It would be a simple operation, quick and clean. Deep in uncharted space, hidden inside a massive asteroid field, Admiral Daehyun watched the Council broadcast. The monitoring station was small and cold, built into the hollow center of a dead rock. It had been here for 50 years, silently observing the galaxy. They laughed. Captain Minsu said quietly. He stood beside the Admiral, his hands clenched into fists. They laughed at the very idea of us. Dae-hyun said nothing for a long moment. His cybernetic eye glowed faintly in the darkness, recording everything. At 58 years old, he had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. His father had prepared. His grandfather, too. 3 generations of waiting and watching. How long until their fleet reaches New Sejong? Dae-hyun asked. Commander Ha-eun pulled up a holographic display. The young woman had spent 10 years living among the council species, gathering intelligence. Her data was always accurate. 4 days, she reported. They will arrive in overwhelming force. 300 ships against the free world's 40 defenders. And the free world's government? Dae-hyun continued. Governor Tae-yang is preparing evacuations, Ha-eun said. But he has nowhere to send 8 million people. They are trapped. Minsu slammed his fist on the console. We should have revealed ourselves years ago. We could have protected them. We were not ready, Dae-hyun replied calmly. The council believes we are extinct. That belief has kept us safe. It has given us time to prepare. And now? Ha-eun asked. The Admiral turned away from the screen. His face was lined with age and responsibility. Every decision he made affected billions of humans living in hidden colonies across the galaxy. For 300 years, humanity had survived by staying invisible, by being patient. But patience had limits. Now we show them the truth, Dae-hyun said. Send the activation codes to all fleet commanders. It is time. Across the hidden corners of the galaxy, humanity awakened. In the shadow of a gas giant, a shipyard that looked like natural rock formations suddenly blazed with light. Massive doors opened in the moon's surface. One by one, warships emerged into space. They were sleek and dark, built with technology the Council had never imagined. Engineer Hai-jin stood in the control center of the secret facility, watching her creations come to life. At 29, she was the youngest chief engineer in the Terran fleet. She had spent 5 years perfecting the ghost drives, the technology that would change everything. All systems are green, her assistant reported. The ghost drives are stable. Hee-jin smiled, though her hands trembled slightly. The ghost drives allowed ships to slip into subspace, becoming invisible to all known sensors. It was revolutionary, dangerous, and completely untested in large-scale combat. Send them out, she ordered, and pray this works. The ships vanished one by one, phasing out of normal space. To any observer, they simply disappeared. But they were still there, moving silently toward their destination. Across the galaxy, the same scene repeated. Hidden bases on dead worlds activated. Ships that had waited in darkness for decades powered up their engines. The Terran fleet was not as large as the Council's armada, 200 ships against thousands, but each human vessel was built with one purpose, to fight against impossible odds and win. Admiral Dae-hyun boarded his flagship, the Eternal Dawn. Captain Minsu was already on the bridge, checking systems and coordinating with other commanders. The crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this their entire lives. Course set for New Sejong, the navigation officer reported. We will arrive 2 hours after the Council fleet. Good, Dae-hyun said, settling into his command chair. Let them think they have won. Let them feel safe. Then we show them what humanity has become. On New Sejong, Governor Tae-yang stood in his command center, watching the stars. He was a tired man, worn down by years of keeping his people safe from Council expansion. Now that safety was ending, how long? He asked his defense coordinator. 3 days until the Council fleet arrives, the coordinator replied. We have 40 ships. They have 300. It is not enough. Tae-yang nodded slowly. He had known this day would come. The free worlds had lived on borrowed time. Now the debt was due. A communication officer approached nervously. Governor, we received a strange message. It is encrypted with old codes, ones we have not used in generations. From who? The officer hesitated. It claims to be from someone calling themselves the Terran fleet. The message says humanity remembers its children. Hold for 3 days. Silence filled the room. Tae-yang stared at the decoded message on his screen. Humanity. The ancient species that everyone said was extinct. The legends that parents told their children. It is a hoax, the defense coordinator said firmly. Someone playing games. But Tae-yang continued staring at the words. Humanity remembers its children. The free worlds had always believed they were descendants of the old human colonies. It was part of their identity, even if no one else took it seriously. Send a reply, Taeyang ordered. If you are real, we will hold. But do not make us wait in vain. No response came. The governor turned back to the window, looking at his world. 8 million people depending on him. 40 ships against 300. And now perhaps a ghost from the past offering impossible hope. Prepare all defenses, he said quietly, and pray that myths can become real.